What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that your Tuesday is going splendidly. Hopefully, you won all your fantasy football matchups. Hopefully, you enjoyed Monday Night Football. It was a fantastic finish. Minnesota Vikings, Chicago Bears. The first week of the season is officially behind us, and it was magnificent. I know we wish the Dallas Cowboys won, but man alive, it is so good to have football back. Rocking and rolling. It'll be here again on Thursday. Big game between Washington and Green Bay that obviously we'll be paying a lot of close attention to with different Cowboys perspectives. Yeah, ultimately it's just nice to have football back. And football is a year-round thing here at Blogging the Boys, which is what I talk about, what we talk about here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, specifically the Dallas Cowboys, if that's not obvious. So if you haven't yet, please like the video, subscribe, tell a friend. I have a lot of time hanging out with all of you, my internet friends and family, discussing the team that brings us lots of joy, but also, that we, just sometimes have some issues with. But right now, I think that everything is pretty chill and everything is pretty optimistic. Certainly, as the Cowboys get ready to host the New York Giants on Sunday at AT&T Stadium, their home opener. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be live right after the game for our post-game show. So, like I said, make sure you are subscribed here on the YouTube channel. Also, if you haven't, you can hang out with me on any level of social media: X, Instagram, Threads at RJ Ochoa, TikTok RJ.Ochoa. Go like my Facebook page. That's popping off as of late. The links to all of those places and more are down in the description below. All right, so it's Tuesday, and the Cowboys will be back in official, formal, natural sequence of business on Wednesday when the next week of the NFL machine gets going. And again, the Cowboys hosting the Giants. I did a live edition of the NFC East mixtape with my buddy Brandon Gouton on Tuesday. We talked a lot about how the Cowboys are 5.5-point favorites in this game. That line has grown a bit. Dallas on Sunday morning before the Giants lost to Washington, Dallas was a 3-point favorite. On Sunday evening, that line had moved up to Dallas being a 4.5-point favorite. And as of now, Tuesday afternoon, the Cowboys are 5.5-point favorites. So some serious movement over the course of the last 48 hours or so. Maybe Vegas is starting to believe in the Cowboys a little bit. I know some different people are around here at least. But as it relates to the Cowboys in this game against the Giants, there are a few things that I want to talk about. And we'll start with what Jerry Jones had to say on Tuesday during his standard appearance on 105.3 The Fan. Jerry is on the flagship station to the Cowboys every single Tuesday morning. It's fantastic. Shout out to Sean Sharif, RJ Choppy, and Bobby Bell, good friends of Blogging the Boys. And this is one of the things that Jerry said that I think is really noteworthy. Shout out to Nick Harris of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram for this particular tweet in my article at bloggingtheboys.com that you can read on the subject. Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones to 105.3 The Fan on the possibility of Jaydon Blue being inactive. Jerry said his status may have him ready to go, inferring in this particular game in week 2, saying he might be ready to play against the Giants, but he still needs to crack that lineup. Jones, as you can read, Nick said he expects Mazi Smith to remain inactive. So a few things here. Jerry Jones was asked, if we lay it out specifically, Jerry was asked on Tuesday on 105.3 The Fan about whether or not things would go chalk relative to how they were last week for Mazi Smith and Jaydon Blue. He left the door open for Jaydon Blue, which suggests that it's possible for Jaydon to make his Dallas Cowboys debut on Sunday at AT&T Stadium. But he, without fully saying it, effectively said that Mazi Smith is going to be inactive once more. Now, I know we're all anxious to see Jaydon Blue, and I think I speak for everyone in saying we would prefer to see Jaydon Blue. I do think that we should say that if Jaydon Blue is inactive, that Brian Schottenheimer and his staff have begun to build up some benefit of the doubt, some trust that they should be given and that should be paid in deference towards them. And I think a good example of this, and I say this with all due respect to Mazi Smith, is Mazi Smith. The fact that Brian Schottenheimer and his staff had Mazi Smith as a healthy scratch last week in the season opener at Philadelphia. I know that Mazi generates opinions from a lot of people, but the reality is he's a former first-round pick of the team, and I know a lot of people didn't think he should be on the roster. The Cowboys carried him, and Brian Schottenheimer and his staff have said, hey, this is a meritocracy. You're going to have to earn your playing time. You're going to have to earn the ability for us to trust you. It's worth noting that on Monday, the Cowboys placed another defensive tackle in Perion Winfrey on injured reserve. So the idea that Jerry would say on Tuesday morning that Mazi still wouldn't be able to be on the active roster on Sunday is representative of the fact that the Cowboys coaching staff clearly has a way they want to go about this. So I am more than fine giving them their trust because they continue to earn that week by week. Now, that obviously doesn't make us feel better about Jaydon Blue not playing, but or playing potentially. But, I would offer that the Cowboys' run game was not a significant issue, was not a massive issue, was not among my biggest issues with how they played or how they lost to the Eagles. I think Javonte Williams looked great. He had the 2 touchdowns, and that obviously was what, looked the biggest as far as his production from the game is concerned. But Javonte ran hard. And look, I'm not advocating for more Miles Sanders or anything like that, but I let's be real here. We expect the Cowboys to take care of the New York Giants. I don't want to say somewhat handily because you never know the way an NFL game is going to go, even though the Cowboys are 5.5-point favorites, as mentioned. But I do think that it would be nice to see the Cowboys just devote things to Javonte Williams. It would be nice to see the Cowboys be able to kind of, operate with a singular focus, a singular direction. And would it be awesome to see Jaydon Blue as a part of that? Absolutely. But again, I think that Brian Schottenheimer and his staff have earned our trust, have earned the benefit of the doubt. So if they do not feel that Jaydon Blue is ready for whatever reason, right now their actions are meriting trust in that regard, in that particular capacity. So as frustrating as it is, as much as we believe, and I think fairly so, Jaydon Blue can contribute and help this team in certain ways, I think it goes without saying that Brian Schottenheimer and his staff also feel that way, but they also feel like this is the best course of action. So it's a really difficult thing to have patience when it comes to these kinds of things, but this is one area where I am definitely willing to trust the Cowboys, especially given that we're so early in the season. That's one update for you, but this one isn't really an update as much as it is just kind of I don't want to say wish casting, but looking a little bit forward. So here's the Cowboys schedule. And I wrote something on Tuesday at bloggingtheboys.com where I took a look, or I asked the question, how you feel about the Cowboys relative to what else happened across week 1 in the NFL. And I asked that because maybe you feel better about things. As an example, I think this next game next week, Sunday, September 21st at Chicago, you probably are not as afraid of that game as you were, 24 hours ago when I'm recording this, right? On Monday morning, you were probably pretty nervous about the Cowboys going to the Windy City to take on the Bears. And I'm not saying like, oh, you can just mark it as a win right now, but you probably feel better than you did based on how Chicago looked, that their offense couldn't get off the ground after the initial drive that was amazing. So my point is, it's always nice and it's always interesting to kind of contextualize things as we go along. So the Cowboys are 0-1. That goes without saying. The games you're looking at right here are their games through the bye. Dallas has their bye in week 10 after the Monday night game against the Cardinals. They do return for another Monday night game in Las Vegas against the Raiders. My first glance at this, if I have to predict the schedule, predict the wins, predict the losses right now, based off of everything we saw across the NFL in the first week of the season, I think the Cowboys are going to beat the Giants. I think the easy wins. Let's do this. The Cowboys are going to beat the Giants. The Cowboys are going to beat the Panthers. And the Cowboys are going to beat the Cardinals. I think highly of the Cardinals this season, to be clear, but I think the Cowboys are going to beat them. That's 3 wins, okay? So let's look at the rest of the games. I think Chicago kind of feels like a win right now. You never know. And I'd be very interested in seeing what the line for that game would look like next week, especially if Chicago loses to the Lions this week and fell to 0-2. But I could see Chicago being a bit of a coin flip. I think that Green Bay is going to be a loss. I don't want it to be. It will be very annoying. It will be an incredibly annoying week and an incredibly annoying Monday after. But I think that is one that I'm very willing to say is a complete loss. I'm willing to predict that there if we're trying to be fair. I think the Jets game is a bit of a coin flip. You don't know what you're going to get from them as the season progresses. They looked awesome offensively on Sunday in their loss at the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's kind of a coin flip. We've got 3 guaranteed wins and 2 coin flips so far. Washington, I'm also I'm interested to see what they look like on Thursday at Lambeau Field. Dallas has played well against them. It is at home for what it's worth. Maybe I'm willing to put it in the coin flip category, and I'm also willing to put Denver there. Granted, that's on the road, and the Cowboys have had kind of a weird history with the Broncos as of late, even when they haven't been supremely formidable teams. So we've got 3 guaranteed wins in the Giants, the Panthers, and the Cardinals. We have 1 guaranteed loss, at least, Green Bay. I think you could argue that Washington belongs in that box as well. And then we've got some coin flips in terms of Chicago, New York, and Denver, right? Let's call the Washington game a guaranteed loss. So that puts the Cowboys at least at 3 losses at the bye. If this prediction is to hold true, that puts them at least at 3 wins. And if you presume that they, go 2 out of 3 on the coin flip games, that puts them at 5-4 at the bye. And I think that, you could certainly hope for better, but I think you could also be happy it's not much worse. Now, it is going to get extraordinarily more difficult for the Cowboys after the bye. If we look a little bit more ahead, and a lot of things will change across the league at this point in time, the bye kind of comes at a nice moment for the Cowboys. But the Raiders looked interesting, obviously won, but you don't know what they're going to look like. And then the gauntlet begins. But the gauntlet may not be what we thought it was going to be when the schedule first came out. Philadelphia is going to be tough, but it is at home. Kansas City, who knows what their offense looks like, although you never bet against Patrick Mahomes. At Detroit, the Lions don't exactly look formidable right now, as noted. Minnesota, that looks like a very hard game, certainly. So, I mean, this post-bye, intense time isn't exactly the murderer's row that we thought it was going to be when the schedule first came out. But I do think look, the reality is what we think about a given NFL team schedule when it first comes out in April, and what we think about it in September, what we think about it in October, what we think about it in November, it changes because circumstances, details, variables around the NFL are changing. I think right now, if you look at the Cowboys and what their schedule is up through the bye, through that Cardinals game on Monday Night Football, I think they're sitting on somewhere between 5 and 6 wins. If they can get to the bye week with 5 or 6 wins, obviously anything more than that is preferable. I think they'll be okay. I think that I stand by the fact, is a team that's going to hit the over on 7.5, 8.5 win total projections. I think this is a playoff team, even if it's just as a wild card. So I think that things will start to feel a little bit more optimistic, even though they feel pretty optimistic right now, but we'll start to feel even more so once the team gets a win, which we all anticipate is going to happen on Sunday against the Giants. So let me stop sharing this. Let me move on. Last thing I wanted to talk about today. I want to be very clear here. The Sunday that the Cowboys play the Packers is going to be very annoying. That week's going to be annoying. The Monday after is going to be annoying, especially if the Cowboys lose. I already mentioned that, right? Look, we're not here to talk about Micah Parsons. You have my word. The reality of the situation, the only way we're talking about Micah Parsons up until that game, for obvious reasons, is by way of how the Cowboys are connected to Micah and his team, specifically in the Green Bay Packers. The Cowboys hold the Packers first-round draft picks, not only in 2026, but in 2027. So the reality is that what the Packers do is of interest to us. We want them to lose. Maybe you also want them to lose out of bitterness or pettiness. You do you. I'm not going to stop you from doing anything. There's no wrong way to handle this whole situation. That being said, we are going to be tracking the Packers draft pick, their first round draft pick specifically, obviously, because that's the one the Cowboys hold. So we're going to be doing this every week at bloggingtheboys.com. We'll have a tracker that goes out that tells you what the Packers pick is at that moment in time. Again, as mentioned, we want them to lose as many games as possible. We want that draft pick to be as awesome as possible for the Cowboys' sake. And I know it's ridiculous to look at the 2026 NFL draft order after the first week of the 2025 season, but hey, we're keeping tabs on it, and that means we're talking about it every single week. So shout out to Tankathon. They do an amazing job tracking the 2026 NFL draft order like they have every single year before. Again, it is ridiculous to look at this. I fully understand this, but you get the spirit of the exercise. At the moment, at this specific moment, the Dallas Cowboys have, I lost them, the 12th overall pick. That's their original pick. So right now, after week one, the smallest sample size possible, the Dallas Cowboys have the 12th overall pick. And right now, after the smallest sample size possible, the Green Bay Packers hold the 28th overall pick in the 2026 NFL draft. As you can see, that pick belongs to the Dallas Cowboys. So after the very first week of the 2025 NFL season, the literal smallest sample size possible, we are only keeping tabs on this so that we can keep tracking draft pick statuses, situations all the way through the 2025 regular season because the Cowboys hold the Packers first round draft pick. As of this moment, after week one, the Dallas Cowboys original own first round draft pick in 2026 sits at 12 overall, and the Packers pick, which the Cowboys hold, sits at 28 overall. So it goes without saying, we want these picks to be as awesome as possible. So we're rooting against the Packers each and every single week. I know that conflicts with the division this week because the Packers are hosting the Washington Commanders and blah, blah, blah. You can root for whoever you want. The ultimate point is we will be tracking this pick all season long. Right now it's at 28. We want it to be number one. We want to get as high as it possibly can. So go anybody and everybody who was playing against the Green Bay Packers and certainly the Dallas Cowboys when they played them themselves in week 4. These things sometimes work out for NFL teams. Sometimes a trade happens and they do wind up inheriting the number one overall pick. You look at Chicago and the trade they made with the Panthers, the Bryce Young deal, Chicago wound up with a pick, and DJ Moore and all sorts of other things, obviously, that wound up being the number one overall pick. That I know this isn't a great thing to say right now, but that wound up being Caleb Williams. So you just never know. It's just 1 week and it can flip on a dime. That's the way the NFL goes. And so We'll be paying attention to it each and every week, like I said. If you haven't yet, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. I have all sorts of fun talking Dallas Cowboys things and happenings with you every single day, live shows, live post-game shows. It's 24/7, 365 Dallas Cowboys news, discussion, and analysis here on the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel, as well as bloggingtheboys.com. It is also that same way on my social media accounts, X, Instagram, Threads at RJ Ochoa, TikTok, RJ.Ochoa, my Facebook page. The links to all of them, like I said at the top, down in the description below. For now, my friends, I'm going to bid you adieu. I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. I'm super duper pumped. I said this on the mixtape, but I discovered Only Murders in the Building over the offseason, and season 5 premiered today. So I'm going to go try to watch as much as I can because before you know it, it'll be week 2. We'll have all sorts of football to watch. It truly is the best time of year. Thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out, and we will see you next time.